Hey gang, welcome back. The Old Warlock. I'm Alexander.
I'm out of here.
You may have seen our last video where we talked about the Player's Handbook.
Yes.
The Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition Player's Handbook.
The focus being what rules we use in our homebrew campaign. A lot of people have been asking about that, so we thought we'd do a couple of videos about that.
Absolutely, and I would love to say that we're making this one because the last video was really, really successful, but we finished recording the last video 1 minute ago.
So we're just jumping into this one just to
diving
finish it
into
off.
This one. Same sweater, same shirt, you know. We're back again.
Same guys.
Yeah, with the Dungeon Master's Guide, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, and we're going to tell you what we use and what we don't use out of this bad boy.
It will be riveting.
Are you excited? Me too. Let's start.
So, this video, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons DM's Guide. I didn't get to start playing with this until probably almost 4 years after I started playing. So we had the Holmes Basic Rules and we had the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. We also had Monster Manual, and then the DM's Guide came out, which might play a role in why we don't use a lot of the rules, the guidelines in the DM's Guide.
It's possible.
Because we had already established our style of play, and so we just went in and did some picking and choosing about things we wanted to integrate into the campaign that might have been interesting. But and we haven't actually gone through this yet, page by page, to see what it is we do and do not do.
We're doing it on the fly.
We might be surprised to see how little we end up using out of the
be.
Dungeon Master's Guide, but let's get started.
Let's.
So, I will throw up relevant... I said this last time too.
Don't throw up.
I will put relevant pages up on the screen so that you can see things if I feel it's necessary. Really, we don't get into using things until page 12 in the DM's Guide. We do occasionally use the secondary skills table.
We do.
If someone is interested in, if someone asks me, well, give me a little bit of my background. In our game, very rarely do people come into it with their own background ready to go. We have had it happen.
Yeah,
Marcus did that when we played. Yeah. But by and large, nobody's willing to establish their background until they find out if they're going to survive long enough to make it relevant or make it worth the time to do. But occasionally people will ask me, well, do I have any other skills that I bring to the table here with this brand new character?
I ask myself that all the time, in reality.
I ask it too.
And usually I don't even have to roll. Mine is 68 through 85.
No skill of measurable worth. Okay. But if somebody does say, do I have any other skills, any usable skills, I will go to the non-professional skills table and I'll roll the die to see if someone has some fishing skills or some jewelry skills or minor skills. It
Makes the character more interesting.
It does. It can, but it's not necessarily a given that we will do that. But if the player asks, that's what I go to. We do not really use character aging, age, disease, and death.
No. Not necessarily these ones, not the first ones. We do use aging a little bit with like young adult, mature, middle-aged, old, and venerable on page 13. We do use some of that.
We use some of that, but for the most part, it's just so that people can alter their characteristics a little bit, their character stats a little bit.
Yeah.
So with a young adult, you subtract a point of wisdom, you add a point of constitution. If someone wants that to kind of do almost a min-max on their character, we will allow that to happen. But it's not something that we really focus on all the time.
Doesn't get a lot of.
Unnatural aging, no. Disease. Disease I do use, but only if it's necessary. And I use it more, again, this is the Dungeon Master's Guide. I use the disease tables as a guideline. So it might be, I'm not just going to make a random roll on what disease you got. I will scan the table, see the environment that you are in, and then I will determine what disease you might contract.
Yeah.
So it's there to be used, but we don't use it as a percentile table, really ever.
No. Same thing with the parasitic infection.
Same
we
thing.
don't use really any of those.
Maximum character age table, no. We don't use that. Character abilities, the explanations of strength, intelligence, wisdom, etc.
We already got that down.
All out of the player's handbook.
Same thing with races. Same thing with classes for the most part.
Then when we get to followers for upper level player characters, we don't use any of that.
No, that's just done the same way as basically.
It's roleplay.
Yeah, exactly.
You get the characters that follow you because you attract them by your actions, as opposed to just rolling on a table.
Multi-class assassin, paladin, warhorse, spying. Again, no. I mean, like, we do use these things, but not the rules that necessarily are written down for them.
I can tell you that I've probably read these 3 times in my life.
Yeah,
and I've never referred to
rarely.
them in a game.
No. Poison types, same thing.
Thieves and assassins setting traps. Again, that's role play. Dungeon master arbitration, or dungeon master deciding how things are going to happen, and then percentage dice being rolled to see if there's success or failure based on how it's described by the player to me.
Yeah. Lycanthropy do have lycanthropes in things, but not.
But we don't
rules.
necessarily follow all of these rules. Those are more situation specific.
Yeah, and I mean, before we get too much further into this, I feel like a lot of the DM's guide is almost intended to sow the seeds of creative inspiration.
I really believe that's true. I think
Yeah.
that is what it is. It's like, hey, here's something you should consider having in your game.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there is ever you have to do it this way. In fact, we've had discussions about that, and we've done videos on that before,
Yeah.
where in these early days of D&D, a lot of it was make it up as you go. But we still have some ideas here for you in the Dungeon Master's Guide, not rule book.
Yeah, but, pardon me.
A little tired, are we?
Indeed. Like it says here, werewolves are chaotic evil and therefore very unpredictable.
Not
Why do
necessarily
werewolves
true.
have to be chaotic evil? That doesn't make any sense.
I would say that by and large they are.
And I would say the werewolf portion of the lycanthrope probably is chaotic evil, just kind of nuts and wants to kill things. But the person doesn't have to be.
And I think that there can be situations where a werewolf is not chaotic evil based on the magic involved when he becomes a werewolf.
Exactly.
If it's just bacteriological, maybe. But if there's another reason, he might not be chaotic evil.
Who is to say?
We are. Well, actually, I am.
Yeah, you are the authority. The alignment, not necessarily.
Alignment language, don't use it.
Don't use that. Changing alignment, don't really use that. That's just kind of depending on this. That's circumstantial. Money, we already talked about that in the other video.
We use
player's
it.
handbook
We use the player's
more
handbook for
than-
money. Now, go back one page here. Player character expenses. Never have used that. Not that player characters aren't charged expenses by the DM.
Yeah.
But we don't use tables to figure it out.
Yes.
Gem properties, properties of basic gems. We look at that. I might look at that once every couple of years for some
But
ideas.
the value that we don't go off of the numbers that are written down.
I
in here.
determine those when
Yeah.
we're playing.
Same thing with commodities. Again, all these specific gold piece values. No, those are just kind of determined based on the circumstances. Hirelings.
Hirelings, that is something that I have referred to from time to time. Standard hirelings table, daily and monthly costs.
It's on page 28.
Daily cost for a carpenter, 3 silver pieces. This I've looked at just for reference, but I don't go specifically by that. If you're looking to hire a carpenter and there's one within a 14 square mile area, they're going to be pretty expensive to get. So, but that is a good base starting point.
Yeah. But again, we talk about this all the time. Within the books, the economy is so inflated.
It's
and
everywhere.
It just depends.
Yeah.
You can't
It's all over the map.
necessarily universally go off of the gold piece values, especially from book to book. They're
Yes.
going to change. I like these lists of different expert hirelings. I think those are
Jeweler
cool.
gem cutters,
Yeah.
dwarven gem cutters, mercenary soldiers.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
But not necessarily, you don't have to use them.
Right, and we again, it's reference material.
Yeah. Sages, never used that.
Well, we have sages, but we've never used this table.
Yeah, there's a lot on them in here. Henchmen, no.
No.
Never used those. I do like this art, though.
The Dave the Barbarian, yeah.
Very fun. Huge fan. I like the cartoony art that they've put throughout these. I think they're funny. Continued with henchmen. Loyalty base. No, never.
Go back, there's time.
Time for what?
Time to review this. There is time in the campaign, as we mentioned in our player's handbook video. we're ratcheting down time, and we're starting to pay closer attention to
being a little more intense.
little closer attention to the passage of time in the game, because we got away from that.
Spells. We do kind of use some of these ideas, but not the specifics.
Nope. Recovery of spells, spell casting.
Again, some of these, just a little tiny bit, but nothing huge.
There's some good explanations. This is worth a read, all this information about magic user spells, first, second, third, whatever.
Yeah.
Do we refer to this? No. And that, I mean, part of that could be because we've played the game for so long.
Yeah, that it's not necessary.
It's not necessary to do.
Getting lost, no. Again, good inspiration for maybe an adventure you want to think about, but it's not necessary. Aerial travel, aerial combat. I do like these where with the flying demons, the flying daemons, and all that stuff. How they actually have it written out what exactly they can do.
And we don't do it.
No, we don't.
We don't use speed, maneuverability, class A, class B, class C. It's good stuff.
Yeah, if you want to, it's there. But like these graphs with what can go where,
how it can make a turn. No. We make that up on the fly.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
this guy. Hull values of ships. No.
Not really.
No, I mean, it's, again, a comparative, if anything. Like a warship is going to have a stronger hull than a rowboat, but that's it, really. We should know that inherently anyway, I feel like.
I have used speed for boats.
Oh, nice.
For ships. Rowboat, 2 miles per hour under normal sail. Large merchant ship, 3 miles per hour under normal sail.
There you go.
Because I'm not from a nautical area by any means.
No, we're about as far from nautical as you can get.
We really are. We'd have to go a long way to get to the ocean.
Yeah.
And so, this kind of information was useful to us. But we don't, we refer to it from time to time.
I do like the general naval terminology.
Yes.
Starboard,
Well, like hoist sails, to raise the sails.
Lower the sails, to let the sails down.
So, yeah, I mean, it's there.
It's there if you need it. Yeah.
Movement, vision, combat, none of this is stuff that we would use.
For underwater adventures. We seldom have underwater adventures, and if we do, we just kind of go for it.
We just jump in.
Yeah.
See, I did it again.
Kerplunk, am I right?
No, it's kersplash.
All right, fine. Outdoor movement. This is the same kind of stuff that's in the Wilderness Survival Guide.
Yep.
Very similar things, and we don't use really any of that, so we don't use it here either.
Infravision, ultravision? No.
Nope.
Doesn't exist.
Detection of invisibility. We do use invisibility, so hypothetically, but that's more...
We wouldn't use this table for someone to detect something that's invisible. It would all depend on the circumstance and how the players describe to me that they might be looking for something that is invisible.
Or how they're using their invisibility to their best advantage.
Not be detected, right. So it's very much a... again, it comes down to the DM making the decision.
Yeah.
Making the call.
Listing at doors? No. Combat, again, this is all kind of outlined in the player's handbook.
And this is just expansion on that discussion, which that's really the goal that they were trying to pursue with here, was giving a little more in-depth information about things that they had mentioned in the player's handbook.
Yeah, and this, none of this we really use. Again, if anything, it's comparative with kind of what these things are.
But again, I can tell you that years have passed and I have not looked at this text.
Yeah, we never use it regularly. But we are coming up on something we do use very regularly here soon. I also, again, I feel like I'm just pointing out artwork.
And this is my favorite Dungeons and Dragons artwork.
One of the best ones.
Of all time.
Absolutely. Very fun, very adventurous, very dangerous, as we think the game should be.
And our videographer, Zachary, did a drawing of this skeleton coming out of the water for me, and it's on a lot of our t-shirts and things like that.
On the Spreadshirt shop.
Get his own interpretation
of here, if you'd like to go check those out. Light adjustment, things like that. No, not necessarily. Evading different people.
Now go back real quick on that, because they use tables here where they talk about in combat how defenders have to defend against their front and the back and so on and so forth. We don't use miniatures when we play, so this is not really relevant. What we will do is we'll have a piece of paper, sometimes a chalkboard, where we will draw out who's where and what's being attacked from where.
Yeah.
But we're not, it's very loose and...
Yeah. Again, it's not like we don't use the idea. The idea is still there and it does have significance, but we just kind of figure it out.
We don't refer to the DM's guide to do it.
No, exactly. More on that. Don't really use that. We've kind of talked about the open hand for monks and how powerful those should be compared to what they are.
But we've altered them.
I do like these though when they give the examples in the DM's guide, example of melee, and they write out exactly what happens for how that would operate. The pummeling table. We don't use this pummeling table.
No, we do not.
But we do use
my pummeling table.
Yeah.
And those are kinds of things that I've just developed over the years because I've made them simpler and, dare I say it, more interesting.
Gasp.
So, yeah, we don't use their tables here at the DM's Guide. So we're up to page 74.
Now these.
Now, hang on, though. We're up to page 74, and we have hardly used anything from this book.
In actual play.
It's not to say that we haven't used it as reference, but we have not actually integrated it specifically into our campaign.
But what we do refer
into my campaign
is this.
This we use all the time.
The combat tables. We universally use these. They are not adjusted in any capacity. We always use these every time we play.
Yes.
Yeah. This is 74 and 75, 100%. It's quick, easy to understand. Once you've used it a few times, you can just fly through combat like nobody's business.
Right, and that's one of the things that I have often heard is that combat in AD&D was so difficult. To me, it's never been a problem.
It doesn't have to be.
It's really not. And that could be because I came from a wargaming background prior to playing D&D, and this is basically wargaming style tables. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was a no-brainer, but some people seem to have a real issue for it. But trust me, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
On these tables, however, Assassin's Table for Assassinations, no, you have to tell me how you're going to go kill someone. You have to go and physically kill them. Yeah. So you don't just get to roll a %, I killed so-and-so.
No, you have to plan it out, the entire process, and go through the whole thing.
Attack matrix for monsters, yes.
Yes.
Definitely use
that. That does get used.
Matrix for clerics affecting undead, yes. We go specifically by that.
It does. Now we talked about how we don't really use psionics. The psionic tables are on the next 2 pages. Functionally, no, just because there's not really anything with psionics that we fight. But if we were to fight something that could use psionics, we would use these tables.
And that's not to say it's never happened, but psionics are not a real focus in my campaign.
Strong rarity, yeah.
And they go into a lot of psionics in the next couple of pages.
Psionics are one of the major things in AD&D I don't completely understand because it's complicated. There's a lot that goes into it. Saving throw matrices. We do use these 100%.
All the time.
Yeah. Far too many times.
And I think that's a good, that kind of also crystallizes what we use the DM's Guide for, and that is combat and saving throws. You know, that's really its primary function for us.
Items.
Yes, and treasure.
Yeah.
Saving throws for magical items, we do use those.
Saving throw modifiers. Sometimes,
but that's
a little bit.
That's largely me.
Yeah, again. There are modifiers. Not done with the book. Hit points. No,
we don't go with the hit points this way.
Yeah.
And this is a big departure that goes back to my basic D&D days. You get taken down to 0 hit points, you're unconscious. If you get down to -1, you're dead, and that's all there is to it.
That's the way of it. Roll it, get out those 6-sided.
That's right, because it's time for a new character, exactly. So that's one departure that we make. And there are things in here where you can, if you go to negatives, there's all kinds of things that happen. No.
Yeah, like Joe Manganiello's death saves. It's the same kind of thing, just in an earlier edition.
We have done 0, you're unconscious, -1, you're dead.
Yep. And that's the end of it. That's the end of that character.
Yep.
Intoxication, no, we never use that. Again, that's just completely subjective. Insanity, well, I do think that these are interesting tables. We have never referred to them.
Never used them.
I don't think. But again, good for inspiration if you're making a Cthulhu thing or something like that. Experience, no, this we completely depart from. For the most part, like there are experience points.
Well, and as we mentioned in the Player's Handbook video, experience points in my campaign are given based on what you've done. Yeah. It's not what you've killed. It's not
what you have, what you get. It's not.
It's not that. It's how did you kill it? How much of a role did you play in the killing of it, or overcoming, or bamboozling the city guard? Those are the things that you get experience points for in my campaign, and that is totally subjective.
Because if you just pick up something new, you're not getting any experience from that. You get experience from the actions you took to get to that point, to better your character, to get your character better at what it is they're doing and what they're able to do. Experience levels, nope. The campaign, well, I do like this thing that's been written out starting on page 86 talking about the campaign. Again, it's more just here's how this should work than anything, and I think that that's interesting. Talk about cities. Again, I think it's cool.
Typical inhabitants, very interesting.
Very interesting. The different types of governments. This is just good for, a civics class. This is just things that people should know about. But no, I mean, we don't really refer to this.
I don't think we ever have. Town and city social structure? No.
No. Royal and noble titles, Northern European. We just use some of those anyway, but not necessarily out of the book. Royal and noble titles, Asian forms. We don't use really those.
Well, and I think that a lot of this, I come from an archaeological and history background. He has a history background. We just use the knowledge that we have from that.
But if you don't know them, then they're in here. Yeah. That's a great opportunity to see them and learn about them. Economics, really done all ourselves. There's a lot of really specific things in the economic section.
For instance, the town charges a 1% duty on all normal goods brought into the place for sale. Foodstuffs, cloth, hides, et cetera, but a double rate, 2%, on luxury items. Well,
that's great.
But to say that that's going to be the same situation in every city you come across, no.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
There's so many other factors that are going to have to play into that really the only way to determine that is for the DM to say, here's what it's going to be.
It's story-based.
Because he's the one who knows what it should be.
Exactly, because he is the Allfather. Placement of monetary treasure. Hello. We're wearing different shirts, aren't we? Why do you think that is? Because we screwed up.
Again. Well, we did not screw up.
No.
Our camera shut off on
decided to kick off on us. And so here we are. We have to refilm the second half of the video. And we're doing it 2 days later.
So, anyway, we're just jumping in.
That's why we look different.
Again.
I believe the last thing we said was placement of monetary treasures.
We're pathetic. We really are.
Placement of monetary treasure.
No.
No, we don't use this at all. Placement of magical items. No. Territory developed by character players. No. Again, we do these things and we put these things in the world, but we don't follow these rules. They aren't necessarily even rules.
They're just suggestions, really.
They're just kind of, here's how you could do this, hypothetically, if you wanted to.
Sample dungeon.
The sample dungeon. I really like the sample dungeon. I think it's fun, and I very much enjoy the little dialogue that's been written out of what a D&D adventure should look like.
And actually, and that's, I think, is a good part about this, is that it does give you an idea. If you read this, but when you read this back in the day, it let you know how the game was played.
Yeah, if you didn't know how, if you had no previous experience with any of it, then it helped you figure it out, and you know what you're supposed to do now. But so it is fun. It leaves off on a fun little cliffhanger, which I've always liked, but yeah. So if you don't know anything else, you can always play that dungeon, because a lot of people might not recognize it. Who's to say? Non-player characters. The development of non-player characters. No, we don't use any of this. We just kind of come up with it as necessary.
And this is something that you see actually a lot of today in later edition supplements that people have created, is character development. Yeah. But it's not something that we've ever really felt you needed to do, because my character development has always been specific to the adventure that I'm trying to create. So
yeah, it's story based.
I'm not saying it's wrong to use them. It's just that it's not something we've ever decided to do.
Yeah.
Height and weight determination? No.
Well, no. This is hiring non-player characters.
Well, we've got height and weight determination over there.
No, we don't use that. Hiring non-player characters to do different things? No, don't use that. Use of non-human troops? No. Now we do use 106, 107. Construction and siege. So for underground constructions, this is like mining, how quickly you can dig through certain types of material.
And stone.
And then we definitely do use the constructions costs on page 107.
But, again,
within reason.
Because it depends on the situation. Digging a ditch in one part of the country or one part of the world might be different from digging a ditch in the other part of the world based on labor availability. How many people, might be looking for that kind of work, tools available. There are all kinds of variables, but this is a good starting point to give yourself some idea of how much something might cost.
Yeah, and then I do like how there's descriptions for everything of what it is and what they're used for, because you might not know what it is. So you've got it right here if you need it. Same thing goes for the siege weapons and how those work. If you don't know what those are, there's descriptions for all of those, which are nice. We don't necessarily use the damage from siege weapons onto the walls and the fortifications, things like that, because we use the hit points in a little bit different of a way for that. But
But if you did follow these rules, it would be a good system.
It
It's
would
not bad
make
at all.
sense. Yeah, and if at the very least we use it comparatively to know what's better than what in any given situation. Handling troublesome players.
Got that covered.
Yeah, he's got that figured out. But if you want to be nice, be a nice person, there's some nice little suggestions here for how you can do that instead of being a mean old bully like he is.
And yet you continue to come back and play in my world.
I know. That's all I got.
Now this was cool. You've got the ongoing camp. We're in the ongoing campaign section, page 112.
Yeah.
Again, do we use these? No, but they're really cool to me from a history standpoint because they give you a Boot Hill character conversion to AD&D.
Yeah, which is cool.
Boot Hill being the Old West role-playing game that TSR came out with back in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And to me, that's really cool that they have included that in here. Now, we have had Old Westy stuff and AD&D bump into each other from time to time because I think it's really cool. Maybe 3 times in 40 years.
Rarely.
But and I just handled that in my own peculiar way, if you will. But it does give you a conversion chart here, which is really neat. And it also gives you a Gamma World. We've talked about Gamma World recently.
We like Gamma World.
In fact, we've played Gamma World recently. It also gives you a changeover from Gamma World to AD&D and the reverse as well. So to me, that's really cool just historically that they included those two things in the Dungeon Master's Guide from 1980-ish.
Yeah, even if we don't use it, it's still pretty neat. It's interesting to have in here.
Magical research.
No, we don't use that.
We really don't.
No. Fabrication of different magical items. No. Again, we do fabricate magical items from time to time, but again, it's more story-based than it is rule-based. If there's a logical reason why we can pay person X to build this thing, then we go and we figure it out from there. It's not necessarily something that we take straight out of the rulebook.
Right.
Pardon me. Use of magical items. We use some of these ideas, command words,
crystal balls and scrying.
Yeah, drinking potions, applying oils, things like that. Yeah, but the actual numbers that are in here, we don't necessarily use those.
And I think that really a lot of what we're up to the random treasure, which we do use a lot of, but to cover all the things that we've just gone over, kind of to sum them up, if you were a player in my campaign and you wanted to get a jump on the knights playing and you went to the DM's guide to find out how things were going to work, because that was part of your plan, was to build a scrying device and then be able to use it to find something out. If you tried to get a jump on me, and I'm not saying it in a nefarious way, but if you tried to get ahead of me so that you were prepared, you wouldn't be able to do it by using the DM's guide, because we have homebrewed all of this stuff to make it fit our style of play. So, again, I'm not saying that this is worthless, because it is not. It's just
all
that it does.
If you want to use it,
right? It's just not applicable to the way we play,
to the more story-based way we play the game. Yeah.
No, we do use all this.
All the treasure. Yeah, all the treasure information, random treasure determination, the potions, scrolls, rod, staves, wands, miscellaneous magic.
There's some really cool stuff in here. I mean,
there's a lot of
I love
cool
a lot of
things.
these treasures.
And
a lot of these treasures are also, since, I've been playing with this since 81, 82, whenever I said it was. Some of these treasures in the DM's guide are mainstay treasures in my campaign. You will find these over and over again.
They
because
exist somewhere, yeah.
I just like them.
Yeah.
It's not to say that it's limited to this, but you're going to find these probably more regularly than you are some things from, say, the Encyclopedia Magica, Jim said, as he indicated off screen.
Yeah.
These are my core treasures.
Yeah. With the weapons and all that as well, miscellaneous weapons, armor, and shield, we definitely
Giant
use
Slayers, Flame Tongues, Live Stealers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the description for those takes up a good chunk of the next little bit, and we do use all of those.
And go back just real quick. One of my favorite parts of the DM's guide is the treasure, artifacts, and relics section, because what you end up doing with this is they give you, say, the Ring of Gax. Well, the Ring of Gax then has 3 first-tier powers, 2 second-tier powers, all the way up to 1 sixth-tier power. And then, if you haven't seen these charts before, you then go over and you roll random dice
what those are.
to figure out what those different powers are. And to me, that's a lot of fun to make up the artifacts that are in the relics and artifacts that are in your campaign and have them be completely different from the things that you would find in someone else's campaign.
Absolutely. And you can write them in. There's space for it. I don't think we've ever done that, but you have the option.
I have in my old D&D.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, if you want to put them in there, you can just put them in there for quick reference. But it gives you a little bit of uniqueness.
Yes, very much so.
You can implement into each
Very
of the
much
different
so.
items. Got to continue forward.
Yeah, just a lot of treasures.
Swords, yeah, the weapons. Okay, into the appendices. Now, random dungeon generation. I've tried it. We've both tried it. It doesn't seem to work all that well. It's kind of complicated if you want to go down. It's not totally random when you end up doing it. It's like
you have to choose certain things.
But of those choices, there's some randomness that can be put into it. But we both like making dungeons. It's something that we both find enjoyable. So
and putting the logic behind it. And why would a person dig a tunnel this direction rather than having it be random? To us, this is not going to fit in.
No, this takes away from some of the fun. But if you do just need to start cranking out dungeons for whatever reason, the option's here if you need to be able to do it. Same thing with the random wilderness terrain. Again, not necessarily something we would use, but the random monster encounters we do use for when we're wandering through a forest for a long time or something and we need to have something show up.
Or you're in your desert or in your mountains or
wherever it might be, and there needs to be something spicy that goes on to keep things interesting. We do use these.
Or to move players along because they're taking too much time.
Yeah. So,
as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the magic, all these different tables, 176, 177, 78, 79, things like that. We do use those for bringing things out to terrify the players and make them scared while they play the game.
That's pretty much a lot of what's left in here.
Yeah, up through psionics. We've kind of talked before. We don't really use psionics that often because the things that use psionics we don't encounter regularly.
Terribly regular, yeah.
But if we were hypothetically to come across a mind flayer, God forbid, then we would use the rules in here. I don't think I've ever fought anything that uses psionics, so I've never had to use these rules. But they are here.
They're there
should we need them. And then from there, it's really just getting into a lot of big random generation tables, random encounter tables.
And these are really good.
Yeah, if you need to have a waterborne encounter, you've got all the different rules for that, and you can find them in there, and we do use, again, these kind of things.
And usually the way I don't use those, usually I do a lot of stuff on the fly. When I'm running a campaign, if you decide you want to go left and I was expecting you to turn right, I'm not going to say, okay, we've got to stop for the night, I'll wing it. We'll just play off the cuff for however long. What I usually like to do, though, with these random monster encounter tables is, though, if you're going to be going left or right in a subarctic terrain, I'll just roll up, 5 things before we play so that I have 5 random monsters that fit into the subarctic zone ready to go. And so it's not something that I would do that's not something I would do on the fly. I always have those ready to go. The thing I like about these random monster generators is that I don't have to put a lot of thought into it because to me, unless it's a specific monster relevant to what you're doing, it's just a monster you're going to come across like a deer out in the woods. It's easier for me to just use this random generating table. Saves me a lot of time. Yeah.
It just shortens things, whatever needs to happen. It's basically anything you would ever need for a random event. You've got it here.
In a particular zone.
Yeah.
In a particular temperate zone, jungle, whatever.
Side note, this is my favorite art out of any of the books, A Miracle of the Chaotic. I think it's very, very cool.
Love the guy running out of the Green Griffin.
Running out of the Green Griffin, yeah. I don't know. And there's a person on fire in the street, which
seems Miracle's going down.
But no, I think that a Miracle is going to kill
these
people.
I think that warrior coming out with the sword, he's taking him right.
He's going to smack him around. But yeah, again, same kind of thing for a little bit more here. Then we get into the alphabetical recapitulation of monsters with experience point values. We don't really use those.
Never used them.
No,
I don't think I've ever used that one.
And these continue for a long time.
But it is a great summary of all of the monsters quickly. If you're looking for...
Well, all of the ones that are the original monsters.
Right. You know, what's a will-o'-the-wisp do? Well, you can just flip to the back of this and you've got it. You don't have to get out your manual and flip through it. All the important, relevant parts are right there.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing, but we just never use it.
It's basically just everything without the descriptions. Yep. If you need the descriptions, they're in a different book. Gambling. You said that you have used the gambling before, because I don't really know how a lot of gambling works, to be honest with you, but it's here if you need it. They've got little descriptions for everything. Traps, trap generation. Haven't used actual trap generation, but if you need inspiration for a new kind of trap, there's a good little list here that you can pull from, if nothing else.
And I mean, I do like, there are a couple of things in there that I have just read through it, not rolling a die, or not rolling dice to see it, but, oh wait, corroding gas. Well, I haven't really thought about that for 5 years. Let's put some corroding gas in there because it makes sense that there would be corroding gas there. It's just an idea generator to me.
Yeah, and the same kind of idea generator for dungeon dressing. I do like this with air currents, odors, general things that you could find, unexplained sounds and weird noises. I think that's fun.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. 54, 55, laughter. If I just heard people laughing in a silent dungeon, it'd be kind of creepy. But it'd be very cool. It's a good way to get the imagination churning. Really scare your players. Make them make good decisions.
I'll remember that.
All right. Shouldn't have said anything. Continues from there with more dungeon dressing. Again, great
more
stuff.
More
inspiration for anything. More appendices that we do not use.
Conjured animals.
Nope. Inspirational educational reading. It's a fun little list of books that you can check out if you need inspiration from for your worlds.
Again, for the history D&D, the D&D history geek, love this because this is hearkening back to the books that I was reading when I was first developing my campaign.
Yeah.
Because, again, we're talking 1980 here.
Yeah.
Roughly 1980 here. So, you know, you've got things from Roger Zelazny. You've got things from Robert E. Howard. You know, those kinds of things are suggested in here. People who are newer players, I think you might find some value in some of those books, too. You might really enjoy them.
You have J.R.R. Tolkien, The Hobbit and the Ring trilogy are given as inspirational ideas in here. Encumbrance of standard items, we've talked about that. Yeah, we've talked about that. We don't use the specific gold piece values. It's just comparative more than anything. And that's really it.
That's it. Protective items, weapons, you know, it's just, again, they're random tables for possibly finding something.
Yeah.
No,
it's
not something that we're going to do.
Just the glossary, the index, and a few more tables right in the back just for determination of other things, and we don't really use those either. No. So, of the Dungeon Master's Guide as a whole, we don't really use that much of it. Maybe 10... Well, with the magic items, maybe 20%.
With the magic items, I would say it would get up to maybe 20.
Yeah, but in terms of the specific rules that are laid out for how different things work, it's really just combat is the big one that we definitively use nonstop all the time out of this, and it's just those combat tables.
And I think that the reason for that is because there needs to be consistency in the area of combat.
Yeah.
You need, as a player, you need to have an understanding of, if I go up against that person in this kind of armor with this kind of weapon at my experience level, I'm going to have X% chance of actually doing damage. You've got to have some solids there.
Yeah.
It can't all be nebulous. It can't all be skeletal.
That can't be interpretation. But if you do, in combat, do something that's, you know, a little bit off the cuff and you change how things work, you can still say that the way we play, and you might be able to implement that and have some sort of an effect. Like, I run away because I want to push rocks down on top of the people that are coming towards us, or something like that. Instead of shooting your bow at them, then we wouldn't go off the tables. Then it would be more something that we determine in the moment. Right,
and you know, the classic example to me is that, can I jump up and grab the chandelier and swing across to the other side of the room? You know, I mean, in the middle of combat. Well, I'm going to give you the chance to do anything like that. How you describe it to me and your dexterity and your experience all play into the final number I give you to roll.
Yeah.
But are you going to find anything about that in here? Not really. Yeah. So we're going to approach that again on the fly, making it up as we go in order to keep the story rolling along.
Yeah, because there's a lot of rules in here, but they can't cover everything.
Right.
So,
and I think that's one of the things that later editions of the game really tried to do, was have a rule for everything.
Literally everything you could ever need.
And to me, that's just a waste of time, because you know, we've played enough times to where my players come up with some pretty crazy ideas.
Yeah.
Cool ideas, but things that you're never going to be able to find a specific die roll for, or a specific trait that you have that will give you success or failure. It's going to have to be a series of things added together to give you the concept of success or failure based on roll of the die.
And essentially a % chance that you're going to succeed or fail in what you're doing.
And at the end of the day, that has to be up to the DM because he's the only one that can give the consistency throughout the game because it's coming out of his head.
Yeah. And if it's the same person or the same group, you'll be able to find that consistency pretty easily.
Yeah.
If you've never played kind of the way we do, it's not as random and inconsistent as you think it might be.
As it might sound.
Yeah,
it's
as
really
it might
not.
sound. The way that we play it, we know essentially if I want to jump across a 3-foot gap, we know vaguely what the % chance of success in that will be as long as there's no extenuating factors. But again, if I'm a gnome and I want to swing across chandeliers down a huge dining hall, then yeah, that's going to be significantly more difficult. And we can agree pretty universally on what the chance for that happening will be.
Right.
So,
but at the end of the day, the DM runs the game, and it's up to him to make that determination. And I think a lot of that comes down to the players have to trust the dungeon master to be fair when those kinds of things are being determined, and the dungeon master has to be fair when he's determining those things to make a consistent, fun game.
Yeah, and I will say that is probably easier when you usually play with the same group of people.
Yeah.
If you're playing with more random people at game stores or whatever it might be, that will definitely be more difficult to enjoy the experience with because you won't know what you're coming into. But yeah, just the way we do it, it's usually with the same group of people. So we're good to go.
Yeah. So, and when I have DM'd for other people in other places, after you've been at that table for an hour, people start to understand exactly how you're going to play and what to expect. So, anyway.
So thanks for coming by. For those of you who use more of the Dungeon Master's Guide, tell us specifically what you like to use and what you think we are wrong about. You guys have not been hesitant about that in the past.
Yeah.
And we like it that way.
Yeah, tell us. There may be something in there that we have talked about it. It's been years since I have read this from well, no, that's not true. Read it from cover to cover maybe a year ago, but prior to that, years had passed since I went back in and went over a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
There might be something in there that I could have a second look at.
Yeah,
let us know.
Maybe we missed something. Let us know what you think. Check out everything down below. All the links to all of our good stuff that you can find, social media, shirts, whatever it might be, you can find that down below. Keep an eye out for our Patreon. That's going to be launching here sometime soon. We're transitioning from Coffee to Patreon. Everybody who supported us on Coffee, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes.
We're just moving it to a more recognizable site,
Yes, I think that's a good way.
Yes, we're going to be offering some exclusive content, things like that on there here in the near future. We're not sure exactly when. It's not going to change anything here in terms of what we make on here. We're not putting anything behind a paywall. It's just going to be even more for those of you who want more.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for some other projects we got going on. Follow us on Instagram. Keep your sword on free.
Wait a minute.
Oh, okay, sorry. Follow us on Instagram.
I'm Alex.
Thanks for watching.
I'm Alex.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jim.
Keep your sword on free.
There we go. Bye-bye.
Bye.